Welcome to the Dollars and Cents podcast with Wes the Economist and Jonathan the Conspiracy Theorist. We're reporting to you live from the Wave Beach Realty Studios in North Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Give us a call today at 843-957-3872. All right, guys, welcome back into the Dollars and Cents podcast. I've kind of surprised Wes with a new series that I decided to start. Just I needed a new book to read, so I was like, well, what better book to pass time when I'm in the car umpteenth hours a day than the Bible. So I've got a 70-hour Bible to get through via audio books. So I've been going so far today. I was driving around for an hour and I think I got through Genesis chapter 11. So we're going to start with some questions that I have after reading through chapter 11. We're not going to get through all the questions on this episode, but if you're interested in, if you have questions like I do about what you read in the Bible, I'm going to try to ask some really good ones, and they're going to be in the order of what I read. So each question is in the order that I had it. So it will be chronologically how the Bible is written, how my questions come up.
And that's something we'll probably talk more about off air to get you looking at the right chapters. Because one of the big things people do is start in Genesis and they try to read it through the way it's laid out. For one thing, it's not chronological. The Bible is not chronological. In fact, I have another podcast series. There's only 3 episodes on called studying Simply Student Scripture Study. And it is the first 3 episodes actually walk you through how the Bible is put together, because it's not chronological. And the other issue is, especially people who just dive into the Bible for the first time or the first time in a long time, they try to read Genesis, Exodus, and you get into Leviticus, and then you give up because it's so, I mean, it's interesting once you understand the rest of the Bible, but it can really bog you down. So I would suggest once you get through with Genesis, maybe a little bit of Exodus, but then jumping to some other books that I'll help you find, and then we'll walk our way back into the rest of the first 5 books.
Okay. Yeah, and I just meant I knew the Bible's not chronological. I just meant my questions were chronological, as in the order I was reading. That's what I meant.
All right. So what's the first one?
All right,
this is Genesis 1:1, right?
So, well, in Genesis 1:1, I had a question about the original language and if God was communicating in it, but it kind of answers it later in Genesis when he splits up the languages, and I'm going to have a question about that. So I answered my own very first question by continuing to read. But the second one,
Well, ask the first one though, since we started.
basically, I said, God's communicating with Adam and Eve originally when he creates them on, whatever day that is. And I was curious as what language he's communicating with them in. What is the original language, and was that the only language at the time? And I did find out later, yes, it was until later on, but don't know what language that was.
That's a very interesting question. I've never had that question. I can assure you it was not English.
Right. Of course not. Yeah. I'm assuming it's some version of Hebrew or some way predated, version before that.
Yeah.
But so anyway.
All right. So
my real first question is, he used some words. There's some words I'm not familiar with. Because God said that he created the sun and the stars in the firmament of heaven. The way that he describes creating the heavens, it almost sounds like heaven can be a physical place, even though obviously we die and our souls go there. The way he describes it in Genesis, it's almost like he's creating a place above us that is actually too far for us to get to, but it almost sounds physical the way it's being described in Genesis, because he's saying he's creating the stars just below heaven and the sun in heaven, and creating light and day, or day and night. And so I'm like, well, it sounds like he's almost creating a real place that you can get to. We just don't have the ability to, other than when we die.
and I'm trying to gather from which translation is it reading from?
This is King James.
Oh, really? Wow, you did jump back into the and I love the King James because it's very poetic. But the words are very hard to kind of get from today. Because you literally end up doing a study of what words meant back in the 1600s.
Right. Which I'm okay with, because more knowledge I can get is good. But
let's look at that. Let's look at that in a more recent translation.
Okay.
So you had in verse 3, God saying, "Let there be light," and there was light, and God saw the light was good, and God separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and he called the darkness night. Evening came, and the than morning the first day. Now, if you'll notice in that day one, he didn't create the sun and the stars.
Right.
So there's a lot of question about what is light. And a lot of scholars believe, and you'll find that different scholars believe different things, but the one I always held to is that is the idea of light and darkness. Jesus being the light. Now, I don't think he created Jesus here because I think Jesus is God, but there was a definition between lightness and darkness. And then you go on to verse 6, and then there be an expanse between the waters, separating water from water. So God made the expanse and separated the water under the expanse from the water above the expanse. And it was so, and God called the expanse sky. Evening came, and then it was the second day. So it's kind of like forming the earth, making it into the sky, and then the the earth. But there's water like the oceans, the lakes, that kind of stuff on the
Mm.
earth, and then but there's also water in the sky. And I tell you what, this opens up all kind of conversations. There's a lot of people who believe that before the flood, things were different on the earth, how things lived, how things nurtured, how the water itself was interacting with nature. And that was one reason people lived for so long before the flood and only lived to 120 at the most after the flood.
Hmm.
And so you really, again, much more in depth study to look at that. But I think you're talking about verse 9. It says, "Let water under the sky be gathered in one place." And we just read that, didn't I? I'll call the dry land earth, and I'll call gathering of the water seas. And God said it was all good. Then God said, "Let the earth produce vegetation, seed bearing." I missed something somewhere there, didn't I?
And I think you haven't got to it yet. It's when he creates the sun and the stars is
Okay,
what I'm
all right.
referring to because he talks
So
about creating the heavens.
expansion of the sky separate the day and night. Lights in the expansion of the sky. So this was the fourth day, I think you're talking about. So let there be light in the expanse of the sky and separate the day from the night. They will serve as signs for festivals and for days and years. There will be lights in the expanse of the sky to provide light on the earth. And it was so. God made the two lights, the greater one for dominion of the day, which is the sun, the lesser light dominion over the night, which is the stars. God placed them in the expanse of the sky to provide light on the earth, to dominate the day and the earth, and separate the light and the darkness. And God saw it was good. Evening came, and this was the fourth day. So that must still not be the one you're talking about.
Well, the King James Version specifically says he created the sun and the stars in the firmament of the heaven. And I probably just need to see what the word firmament means because it sounded like he made them like above, right, like from the heavens. And it just made the way it was described in the King James Version, it sounds like when he's creating the heavens, he's creating the separation between heaven and earth, but it's almost like a physical place the way it sounds in the King James Version. So obviously you're looking at a newer
Yeah,
version.
I study from the whole Christian Bible. We can get into some of that at some point. Um, I just switched to KJV. There it goes. Okay. So day four in the KJV. Okay, and there lights in the firmament of the heaven and giving light upon the earth, and it was so. Two great lights, the firmament of the heaven to be given light unto the earth. Um, so yeah, I think what's throwing you is the firmament. I can't even say it.
Yeah, so it's an old word that traditionally means sky or the heavens.
Yeah. So the newer translations would translate that in sky and or the heavens, depending on the use of it. Because actually, most Christians believe that heaven itself, actually two things. One is that God didn't create it until after the resurrection, and then that heaven that is unseen, that it will become physical in Revelation.
Hmm.
So there's not at this point in history in Genesis 1, there's not a heaven as what we describe today. In the Old Testament, the Hebrews basically believed in this place called Sheol, which had paradise and Hades together, divided by a gulf that you couldn't go back
Got
and
it.
forth. so
Okay. All
so
right.
that
So
was your
long
first
story
question?
short, though, you don't look at heaven that there's any possible way that it's a physical place that could be traveled to at all other than by death.
No, no,
There's just
not
no chance.
no, I don't think so. No.
Okay. Okay. All right.
No.
That was basically what the question was. I was just trying to explain why it seemed like that to me first.
So,
All
all
right.
right.
Well, I've got a bunch more. I don't know how far are in on this.
Well, we did a little bit of introduction. We
Yeah.
said before we got started, we're going to keep this to 10 minutes. So we need to move on to episode 2.
All right. So we'll wrap up. So my first question is verifying that heaven is only a spiritual place. I've got tons more questions. We'll keep rolling through Genesis and go from there.
All right. Sounds good.
Are you looking to buy a home in North or South Carolina? You need to reach out to Wave Beach Realty today. We are a family-owned company with over 10 years of experience in North and South Carolina and operate along the Grand Strand. Give us a call today at 843-957-3872. That's 843-957-3872.
All right. Well, now it's officially time to introduce my book, Econ Sense, Economics for Everyday Living. You can actually find it by going to my website, econsense.us. If you go there, you'll see there are links to Amazon where you can pick it up, just a paperback, or if you'd rather have the ebook, you can go to Innovative Ink Publishing and care of Kendall Hunt Publishing Company, where you can get the print or ebook. And while you're on that website, you can also check out my other podcast, Econ Sense, which I have several different series that go by. You can find it on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and YouTube. Email me at wes.the.economist@gmail.com, and I look forward to hearing from you.
Thanks for listening to the Dollar and Cents podcast with Jonathan, the conspiracy theorist, and Wes, the economist. Don't forget to send us your topics and give us your feedback at dollarscentsgs@gmail.com. We are available to like and follow on many platforms, such as Instagram and X at dollarscentsgs. You can also like or follow on Facebook at Dollars and Cents or on YouTube at Dollars and Cents Podcast.